Well, good morning, everybody. How we doing? Sammy, United People's TV. Got the hat on. That's pretty chilly. We're here to talk about United, funnily enough. Going to speak about the frustration around Chido Obi after confirmation yesterday that he can't actually play in the Europa League at any point this season, which is an interesting development. Anyway, going to run through that news. Going to speak about the latest on more cuts that are going to be happening under INEOS. I don't think there'll be any United fan that disagrees with these cuts. That's for sure. We're also going to be speaking about Manchester United budgeting next season for the worst case scenario, which, given that we have, let's be honest, lost money as a club for 5 consecutive years, is exactly what the club needs to do. You might not want to hear it, but that's what United need to do to be sustainable. Well, you know what United needs to do to be sustainable? Not to be a crap football team. And that would be really quite helpful. But anyway, I'm going to run through all the news, going to read your comments, and we're going to have a chat, just like we do every single day. Let me see who's here from the mod and the member gang. Good morning to you, and I can see you there, Stephanie, not Stephen. We've got Josh, we've got Carl, we've got Chris Wing gifted a membership down there. Who's that for? You and Shetty and our best buds. We've got Ryan Pitt, Toby, we've got Ash Piper, Pedro watching from the airport. How you doing, buddy? Lee, we've got Saeed, we've got Vince, Top Dog, Mamu, Volpez, and Chippy. Everyone loves Chippy. All right. Start the stream with finances. Yeah, joy of joys, people. Yeah, you know my complaints that I've had, quite a lot of them. I keep saying again and again and again. It's just I can't wait for the day. It might be a long time away. I'll be totally honest. It probably is. I can't wait for the day where we can just go even what feels like a week or a month without talking about some form of finances, some form of off the pitch shenanigans. Unfortunately, I think we're some way away from that. Right? Ines saying you must be bored as hell talking about this broken club. Rather than being bored, I'm more broken, if I'm totally honest. I've sort of ran through what that Steve Howson video the other week. Just sort of you could call it burnout, but it's just sort of like when you go as deep into United as sort of we do here, it can become extremely confusing. Confusing? Well, it is confusing, but consuming. David saying, good morning, Sam. First time able to watch live. How you doing, buddy? Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you very much for commenting and getting involved. Now, a little bit of random news. Benny McCarthy's been appointed the new Kenya head coach, so congratulations to Benny. Sort of left United, and everybody had good things to say about Benny McCarthy, really. I'm not sure there was anybody that had anything bad to say about him. Came in, then Rashford scored 30. Well, deary me. I'm just thinking about Man United, deary me. You know what? I think did I say this in the show yesterday? Well, I'm going to keep saying it. As crap as United have been for these last 2 years, United's under-18s have been a consistent shining light. And at a time where the current state of our club, it's very hard to be overly optimistic about the short term and the short term future. Yeah, sure, we want Project 150 to work, but how many United fans have got real belief that we're going to win the league in 2028? It's good to have that aim towards it, and this summer, what happens this summer will massively depend as to whether or not that actually is possible. Last night, the under-18s played on Monday night after beating Arsenal in the FA Youth Cup on Friday night, away from home, made some changes. James Scanlon bagged 2, and Jim Thwaite scored from the spot as United under-18s came back from 1-0 down with a late turnaround from the 71st minute to win 3-1. The under-18s, and I've done plenty of, well, I think so anyway, plenty of content around the academy, which deserves the spotlight, and I just think it deserves more spotlight. It really, it's, you know how sometimes when like things are going wrong with the first team, you can like look towards the academy, and this is kind of what we're doing with the first team right now. I'll just play the youth, play the kids. It can't be any worse than the first team. And that happens in most cases when your team's not playing well, certainly with United. But the under-18s genuinely are just consistently fantastic, even when they're making changes. Daniel James playing for the under-18s for Middlesbrough. Oh. Anyway, congratulations to them. Volpez, you're talking about Sharp and McAllister, two I'm really enjoying watching. Finley McAllister's just got himself a hamstring injury, I think, didn't he? So I think he's out of action for about 10 weeks with under-21s. Even the under-21s have been playing some good football. You know what I feel about under-21s level? It's not about the players that exist in the under-21s. I just do not think the under-21 setup is that the whole league setup, the competitiveness, it's not a big enough step above under-18s, and it's not close enough to senior football. Saloyan saying can't get them in the first team. It can't hurt, can it? But it can hurt them. That's the thing. That's always the clash between what is best for the first team right now and what is best for these youngsters in their long careers. Because you saw it with, well, you've seen it with a lot of players. Theo Walcott was a very good example. Michael Owen was another example of players who really came through. I suppose it's a bit different, Michael Owen. But sometimes when you thrust a player into the spotlight too early, it can be counterproductive. And that's always that balancing act. And we'll speak about Chido next, but I want to speak about this first, all right? So I've always supported the 1958 for what they stand for. And what they stand for and I suppose this is my view and my opinion, but they stand for the voices of United fans. They stand for not just the season ticket holders, but the members, but those who watch United home and away and are the core of the fan base of the club. And they deserve representation. And everything that's gone on this year with the big reason why so many fans are scared of a new stadium is because of the increased prices that will come as a consequence. It's not likely to come as a consequence. They will come as a consequence, right? So the unconsulted ticket price rises to £66 was like sweeping the rug from under the feet of United fans and sort of a precedent by the new ownership, part ownership, and also an inkling about what is to come. Hence why this is happening on Sunday ahead of Arsenal. All right? So there is a protest that's happening before the Arsenal game. And it's going to start at Tollgate, 3 p.m. and it'll be a march before the game. I'd encourage you to get involved if you're going and you can and you want to. It's completely your choice, of course. But like Volpez down there with a comment, which I'd love to dig out. No, pretty much dig out. These protests don't do anything, though. I find them a total waste of time. And I'm actually gonna ban that word INEOS from. I'm just gonna mute it on the channel because it is so unbelievably childish. Right, okay, so a total waste of time. So what would you do then? Go on. If it's and this is kind of what it is like with pundits or just with the internet existence. It's really easy to say, "Nah, that's crap. Nah, don't do that." All right, cool. You present something to me then. I'm all ears. It's so easy to call out what people are doing wrong rather than what people could or should be doing as a consequence. Like pundits saying, oh yeah, Amrim's naive, or pundits saying all the things that are wrong with United. But they won't present a way for United to actually improve and come out the other side. I think protests like this are necessary, because if you don't, and you do just operate and sit in silence in the background and do nothing, then the club knows that they can kind of do what they want, that there won't be any sort of repercussion. It's one thing that's always annoyed me about when it comes to protests, and I think we've argued about this quite a few times on this channel, is the idea of emptying Old Trafford. Would be such a powerful message, but it's almost an impossibility because of the broad types of supporters that exist inside Old Trafford. You will get your core selected fans, your season ticket holders, and let's call it like 10 to 20,000. Say hypothetical. This all completely hypothetical numbers here. I think there's around about 50,000 season ticket holders. Say you get between 10 and 20,000 that will be all together willing to do a walkout, which would be huge. Still only, what, just under a third of the stadium? For you to be able to get all the tourists on side and the different supporters groups and the different types of supporters and, of course, all the families as well. It's almost an impossibility at a club like United. People have pointed towards Milan, but I think if you look at the spread of the Milan fan base, the overwhelming majority of them are localised. And it's the global size of United makes it an almost impossibility to empty Old Trafford. But anyway, this protest, I understand. Okay? That's a statement from the 1958 encouraging supporters to wear black. But if you can, go. I'm going to read some of your comments out down here. Sam, you said it before the purchase. INEOS made that this was the better of the two devils, and it's showing big time. Hey, look. When it comes to what INEOS have done so far, some of it is necessary. You might not like it. Some of it is necessary. And I'm going to go on to speak about the fact that the club is budgeting next season for no European football. Do we want that? No. Is that necessary? Yes, it is necessary, given that we probably won't have European football next season. So that's called planning for what should be coming. However, there's quite a few things that they have done that I do not agree with. And there was somebody up there saying, where was that comment there? Someone sort of getting angry with the ticket situation, saying that you managed to buy a ticket for 40 quid against Fulham. Yeah, there you go. Can everyone chill out about this ticket price thing? It's only applicable to resale tickets. I was able to buy a ticket for the Fulham game for 40 quid. I'm pretty sure, mate, that they've sort of backed down and backed out of that. Hence why tickets are now available. I mean, they claimed that it was only 3%, but it's more it is the principle of it. If the club can, I remember when INEOS came in, and this is a thing, right, that has really pissed me off about INEOS when they came in. When they first came in, we saw Ratcliffe and Brailsford meeting with all staff at Old Trafford, sitting down and explaining to them, this is what's happened so far, these are our plans, and this is where we want to get to. And that sort of communication hadn't been felt by staff members at Old Trafford I don't think the Glazers had ever done that before. Then Ratcliffe sat down with Andy Burnham, the mayor, to sit there and talk through plans, and that just hadn't been done before, and that was communication. And then they met with staff at Carrington, they met with the players, they met with the squad. the thing that they showed at the very beginning, which gave me optimism, was the communication, which is exactly what's gone the complete opposite. And I think that's the biggest lie that they have made. And it's the lie which United fans won't sort of forgive and forget, because we've had so long under owners, the Glazers, who have just straight up lied about any form of communication. You remember that statement that Joel Glazer released after the European Super League, saying that there was going to be more communication? They were talking about the share fan ownership, something that Manchester United supporters trusts have pushed for a long time, saying that a way to raise money is if you bring up the possibility of fan ownership and you release shares and you sell those shares, and that money can go into the club. That will be a great way to raise money and make United part owned, even if it's only a small percentage at the start, but part owned by fans. And then nothing's happened since. It's the communication which has dented my trust in INEOS the most. When it comes to the cuts, when it comes to the redundancies, I don't agree with all of them, but I understand a lot of them. So yeah, I think my point here is, if you're going to the game on Sunday, I would encourage you to get involved with that protest, because it is there to protect the fans. That's what that protest, in my opinion, is largely about. If United right now weren't 15th in the league, then I think there will be less noise around this. I think there will be less anger towards most things that have been happening in terms of the cuts. But the unconsulted ticket price rises, I think the same amount of anger would exist around those. I feel like that's at the core of this. Saloin's saying, what would you give INEOS as a mark out of 10 overall? I think we had this conversation a few weeks ago. Like a 4, maybe? I don't know. Volpe's down there saying, like, these small cuts aren't going to do anything while we pay players like Casemiro $350K a week. And I don't know whether it's United fans just being obtuse for the sake of it, to just cause arguments, or whether they don't quite understand. But you are correct that these small cuts aren't, in the grand scheme of things, going to do anything compared to all the wages that we are paying. But we have these players on contracted, salaried, protected wages, and we can't do sweet FA about those right now. We can't do sweet FA about them. So does that mean that you just don't do anything? You don't make any sort of attempts to trim until you get rid of the players first? No, you don't. Like, you simply do not. I think it's the order that things have happened that has partly pissed United fans off so much. The fact that we do still have Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford on the books, and Anthony, we're paying some of his wages, and Sancho and Casemiro. But you can't do anything about these players until the summer. So what, you just sit there and you don't do a thing? Well, they tried to do... They did try to do Sonic in January. Yeah, Charlie, you're saying removing 450. There's a lot more staff than I thought were going to be removed. I was expecting about 20% of the workforce. It's looking like it's going to be just over a third of the workforce. But the real test, I suppose, for INEOS will be the summer. All right, it will be the summer. Because if after this, look, massive hypothetical here, and even the eternal optimist in me would probably say this won't happen, given our history in transfer windows. But if at the end of the summer we look back and we say, right, okay, so Casemiro's gone, Shaw's gone, Sancho's gone, Rashford is gone, Anthony's gone, Malasia's gone, Lindelof is gone. Lindelof and Evans will be leaving because they're both free agents. But if we can sweep out so many of those players, then people will be looking back on these cuts and these redundancies and saying, well, they were the first things to happen, but the ultimate changes are these now, these wages. Like Patrick Dorgu coming in on 40 grand wages, 40 grand a week. Thereabouts, that's what all the reports have suggested. It's the players and the wages and the playing staff, if you want to call them that. That's going to be the thing that moves the needle the most when it comes to United's finances. Like, Christ, like, look at the summer we had last summer. No, 2 summers ago. We signed Hojlund for 70-odd million pounds. We signed Onana for 60-odd. And we signed Mount. Unbelievable. Look, my video today is going to be about Onana. I'm going to go back and pull up what I've said previously about Onana. And I want to really explain how, of all the signings that we've made, and we've made some balls up signings, right? I think Onana is the one I'm most confused about. Given the player that I thought that we were signing, that I saw, and he was right there compared to the player that I've seen in a United shirt. C. Binnington saying, Sam, in the summer we don't sell Casemiro, etc. Would you be happy if they just paid some of these players off to get them off the books? Well, dude, like, when it comes to United being prudent with all the money that we are doing, like, you can't then just accept a massive loss on the books by cutting players' contracts. It will go down as too big a loss on the books at that one point in time. What I think United could and should do is accept loans for players. Look, let's find out if I'm right or wrong. It just strikes me as United are going to have to do that in the summer. Luke Shaw is going to be the perfect example of that. In an ideal world, we'd all like move Luke Shaw on. Great. But who on earth is going to pay genuine money for Luke Shaw after the 18 months he's had, injury-wise? And no one's going to do it. Even if it would suit us, and it would. None of us want Luke Shaw to be a United squad player next season. We want him off our books. We're not going to be able to find that. So we could spend all summer refusing to budge and then trying to find somebody to pay Luke Shaw's weight. Or we could just have a reality check and say, well, that's not going to actually happen, is it? So we're going to probably have to loan Luke Shaw out next season, pay, I don't know what percentage of his wages, but we're going to have to pay a decent amount of his wages for him to simply not be on our books. So we'll make a saving of somewhat on Luke Shaw, but it probably won't be all of his wages. And then, if he stays fit, then we sell him the year after. I think that's when he's got 1 year left on his contract. That's the sort of cut, the losses that we are going to have to accept. I don't think we're going to pay off any contracts because then you absorb a loss and you create a loss into the books. That's what United are avoiding. Rex is saying, can people stop with the wages argument? INEOS, for all their faults, have taken 70 to 80% of Sancho, Rashford and Antony's wages. Let's be honest, man. What was it? 86% of... Let's run through those numbers again, right? Maybe a 4 out of 10 was a bit harsh. Let's go for a 5. Because it probably is just banged straight down the middle. Some of the stuff they've done has been good. Some of the stuff they've done has been bad. Straight down the middle seems pretty fair. I believe it was 86% of Antony's wages were covered. Up to 90% of Rashford's wages are covered, which even the biggest optimist among us would not have predicted that. And Sancho, I don't actually know what the wage coverage is, but all I know is that Chelsea are obliged to buy him. Chelsea are paying us £25 million for Sancho. And there's people that like sort of laugh at me saying, well, how can you possibly celebrate that given how much you pay for him? But yeah, we massively overpaid for... I don't think we overpaid for what Sancho's stock was at the time, because I think he was 21 when he was joined. One of England's brightest talents, like goals and assists galore. At that time, it felt like a right price, but like just the stock value of Sancho has just absolutely plummeted since. So getting 25 million at that point, that's pretty good going. So if United can get 25 million for Sancho, which we've already got, 40 million minimum, by the way, for Rashford. In an ideal world, Barcelona come back in for him. I don't really see why they do. They are, see the goals they're scoring this season. It's ridiculous. They've already got Lamine Yamal and they've got Rafinha, who's got like nearly 50 goals, assists combined this season. So I don't know why they're going to go and spend more than north of 40 mil on Rashford. I don't know. So realistically, probably not going to happen. See what you're saying down here. Rashford today cost the club about 75 grand a month. Anthony, 45 grand. Yeah, these are obviously, that's what I mean. When you start getting the player numbers and you compare that to the wages that have been cut just by normal members of staff, it's an impossible comparison. But the summer is going to be the definer. The summer is going to be where it is. Last summer, I'll stand by it when I said that last summer, I thought was one of the best summers that United have had in a long time. Certainly when it comes to player exits. I think we made north of 100 million. I think it was just over 100 million euros, which is the first time. I can even go back and show you this. Man United transfer history. Was it Ronaldo? No, was it Di Maria? I think it was the summer where we sold Di Maria. Let's quickly get this. It was the last time that we made 100 million. Right. 1 second there. Go up there. So this was last summer. 100 million euros. Summer before, 58. Summer before, 23. Summer before, 31. Summer before, 20. Summer before, 81. That was when we sold Lukaku. Summer before, 30. Summer before, 45. Summer before, 47. You see how far back I've got to go here? 100 million. The summer that we sold Angel Di Maria to PSG in the 2015-16 season was the last summer prior to the summer that we've just had where we made north of 100 million euros, which of course is just under 100 million. But that's what this summer needs to be. For this summer to be like any hint of a success, that number there has to be big. And Darren, you're saying the last... Sam, stop lecturing people. My bad. Sorry, guys, for giving you information here this morning. What should we do? Should we just shout about how United's in crisis? And we should just get really angry and see if we can get a rant to go viral? Because that's the way it works, really, isn't it? That's the best thing to do. Come on. Come on, people. Let's go. That's one of the funniest comments I've ever seen, actually. Hey, look, this summer's going to be big. You all know that. And, yeah, that's it. Right, let's move on to more lecturing, all right? I did that video yesterday. And did it on Chido. Well, actually, I didn't do it on Chido. I did it on the sort of 5 things that we learned from the Fulham game. And the performance of Chido was one of them. I thought it was a real bright spark. He was creating chances for himself, and I think that's what his best chance was. It was a ball that kind of went over the top, and simply through good movement, he created that chance. And again, if I go back and I sort of talk about Hojlund, and I'll speak about Hojlund in a little bit, by the way. If I look back at all the research that I did, all the game, everything that I watched of his time at Atalanta, like his positioning in the box was one of his better things. Like, he made the right runs, he made the smart runs. Again, it's just like he's a player who's absolutely bereft of confidence. But Chido, right, there you go. I honestly partly laughed when I saw this news yesterday, right? So, Chido's got 2 or 3 minutes against Spurs. He got 20 minutes against Everton. He got, half an hour off the bench plus extra time. Got about an hour against Fulham. And people are thinking, okay, this is an opportunity for him to come in to the Europa League. Squad, never mind. Right, let me run through what this is. This is from Manchester United's official website, by the way. The Europa League squad. Patrick Dorgu should be available to make his European debut for United on Thursday, and so is Aidan Heaven, because this has happened. The A-list and the B-list. To explain to you the A-list and the B-list. At the start of the season, Manchester United have got to submit a squad to UEFA, Europa League squad. I believe it has 25 members, your A-list and your B-list. You don't need to... Anybody who's on the B-list, I think, is under the age of 21 and has been part of your club for 2 years. I think that's correct. I might be a little bit wrong on that. But anyway, because of that, Chido Obi, of course, hasn't been part of our club for 2 years. So he's not eligible for the B list. So United would have needed to add him to the A list. And last month when they submitted that, they submitted it with Dorgu's name, they submitted it with Heaven's name, and they submitted it with Jack Fletcher's name. Jack Fletcher, of course, hasn't been at this club for long enough either because he was signed from City. So Jack Fletcher's actually the third name on that list. Now, what I would say about that is it kind of feels like a little bit of an oversight to me. And I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm not massively pissed over it because I think Chido would have got some minutes, but I don't think he would have started this game. But for the fact that he's not available for any of our, in best case scenario, we've got 7 games left in the Europa League this season, all the way to the final and winning it. He can't play in any of them. So it feels like a little bit of an oversight for United to look at the squad and where we were. By the way, bearing in mind that Hojlund hasn't scored since December, to look at the squad a month ago and say that Jack Fletcher's got more potential for first team minutes coming in the next few months than Chido Obi. Now, Jack Fletcher, if you've watched the under-18s over these last couple of years, he is a class player to watch. You know how you're talking about that player who's very good. Would you say he's a tempo setter? He's just an excellent central midfielder. And has a goal threat too. But Heaven is registered. Dorgu is registered. So both of those lads will be flying to San Sebastian. I can't trust myself in European aways. I was sitting there reminiscing about Paris away a few years ago when Rashford scored that penalty. I was looking through my old Dropbox photos from, what was it, 2019? Man, we had a good time. We had a good time. But anyway, that's why you won't be seeing Chido in the Europa League this season. And Daz, it's not a case of them failing to register. It's a case of they chose not to. At the time, Manchester United decided that there was more possible. And I suppose that if you think about that for a second, that's quite exciting for Jack Fletcher and his opportunities because the club saw him as somebody who was more likely to have an impact in the first team and get some Europa League minutes between now and the end of the season than Chido was. So maybe we'll see you will see Jack Fletcher flying to Spain for the game. Don't know whether you'll see him play. He'll obviously be part of the squad, but that's quite exciting for Jack Fletcher. But you turn your attention now, when it comes to Europa League, you turn your attention back to Hojlund. And it's just something I want to... I already mentioned this yesterday, but Hojlund has not scored. If you look at the combined stats of Garnacho and Hojlund, it is diabolically bad. I don't think Hojlund scored in 19 games. There or thereabouts. And Garnacho is pretty much the same. I think he's 18 or 19 games as well. Since either of them scored a goal. Now, could you just imagine that? Garnacho and Hojlund. Neither of them have scored in nearly 20 games. Bonkers. But still, even with those horrible numbers, you take a quick look at this, right? This is the top scorer list for the Europa League this season. And you can see Hojlund there. He's 2 goals off top. Top is El Kabi for Olympiacos with 7. Victor Osman's there. Who is Sociedad's highest scorer? Let's have a look. Oskarsson. He's the highest scorer for them in the Europa. 4 goals in 7 appearances. Who else is down here? Baranetskia? Well, Yazabal's got 3. Fair enough. Must be banging them in from corners. Anyway, Hojlund's there with... One sec. That's better. 5 goals. And that there is the actual best in the whole competition this season. Rasmus Hojlund has a goal every 83 minutes. There is not one striker on this list. There's not one goal scorer on this list that has a better goals per minute ratio than Rasmus Hojlund in the Europa League this season. Rasmus, man. Find your feet in Europe. For whatever reason it is, I mean, I suppose the reasons are quite obvious. Hojlund has consistently found in his first season in the Champions League and in the same with the second season in the Europa League, Hojlund's found it easier to score goals in Europe. Remember in the first season in the Champions League when he scored that goal against Galatasaray and then he scored away at... Where was it he scored away? Was it Porto? No, that was this season. Either way, for some reason, he's found it a lot easier to score in Europe. So fingers crossed he can find the back... Because if Hojlund doesn't find the back of the net on Thursday, well, you're immediately looking towards Bruno or set pieces. That's pretty much the only other places you can look at, right? Because you're not going to look at Garnacho right now. As I said, he's not scored in 18, 19 games. Yeah, Bayern Munich, of course. Look, come on, Rasmus, man. Rasmus is... I wouldn't go as far as to say that Rasmus is playing for his United career right now. Because I think simply because of how much we need to do this summer, I can't really see us doing anything with Hojlund. But Jonathan, you're saying, look, I'd send Rasmus on loan to Nice, and I've seen quite a few people talking about Rasmus leaving on loan. But then does that mean we sign 2 strikers this summer? On top of a right wing back and at least 1 central midfielder, and I would argue an inside forward as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 signings. Not impossibility. Peter saying he can't cope with the physicality of the Premier League. I still that's probably the thing that pisses me off the most about watching Hojlund is how incorrectly he uses his own body. Like, still going so touch tight to players, can't create that separation. Onana, when any ball went up to him, it was just like a lofted ball, and then the centre-back came and just dominated him. Jonathan David on a free. Let's find out. Yeah, 2 strikers. I can't really see United signing 2 strikers. You got Chido Obi coming through. Maybe. Either way, let's just hope that Europa League form is something that will continue somehow. Because it won't be an easy game on Thursday. Like, they may have lost it. Sociedad's last 2 games, as tough as it gets, they played against Real Madrid. They lost 1-0. I think it was in the Copa del Rey. And then they played Barca in the league. And they played 73 minutes with 10 men. And they lost 4-0. Conceded 33 shots and had a grand total of 0 shots and 23% possession. Sorry for lecturing you in that. Sometimes troll comments are fun, man. Sometimes they are. They really are. Quite a few people still mentioning Jonathan David. I've always found it, I mention it every time, I just find it weird with Jonathan David. I find it really, really weird. And we go back to speak about finances one more time, because you have to. It's the biggest thing about our football club right now. And this one makes total sense, right? There's not going to be any United fan getting upset or pissed off about this cut. So, if you don't know what this is, United have had a London office for a couple of years, well, for quite a while now, actually, but they've just started 2 years into a 10-year lease on an office in Kensington. And that is supposed to be where United deal with a lot of commercial stuff. Schmoozing. You're more likely to get big companies having big you're more likely to get representatives of those companies being in London more often than you would in Manchester. Anyway, it's a big expense. So INEOS are now looking to try and terminate. And INEOS have been... This is something that you've sort of heard about INEOS in the last, 5 weeks? INEOS are trying to cut the All Black sponsorship early. They're trying to pull from the Spurs sponsorship early. They pulled out of the America's Cup, Ben Ainsley sponsorship. Don't think that was early. I think they're actually going to put their own ship. They just don't want it to work with him. Either way, United are looking to end this lease agreement, this 10-year lease agreement early, Bert and Ernie. Hey, Bert. And then I think conduct a lot of that work inside the INEOS offices that already exist in London. So it's just another cost-saving measure. And as I said, there won't be any United fans who disagree with that. Sort of the evening saying, why doesn't Jim throw some money at the club? He has plenty to spend. You do realise that he's put $300 million of his own money already into the club. He already has thrown literally $300 million into the club. Without that money coming in, I think we may have already breached PSR. And I think there are limits. Remember all the, associated party transaction rulings that's going on with City right now? All that legal stuff. I think there's a limit on how much owners can actually put into the club cash-wise, but then if you convert that into, that's when you get into the loopholes, effectively. You start putting in you pay like $200 million for one share sort of thing, and then all that counts, and then that's a way to put the money. I don't really know. He's already put a fair amount of his own money in. And I think there's regulations that's stopping, even if he wanted to. Even if he wanted to put, if he wanted to put $1 billion of his own money in, I think there's regulations. And this is the headline of today's show, and what we definitely sort of should finish on here, because this is just the ultimate reality check for United. Ultimate. The Manchester United are planning for life without European football next season, and that Manchester United are budgeting for that. Now, this is not how United have operated for a long, long time, and it is why Manchester United are in the position that we are in. We have continued to spend like a Champions League club without consistent Champions League football. Sometimes directly because we're not in the Champions League. Sometimes because we're dropping down to 8th in the table. Sometimes because we're dropping to 15th in the table. We are going to financially have to restrict ourselves for realistically, I think it's 2 years. Starting from... When do you think it is? So say it's like 2025 now, and we are right in the middle of all the... I think there's a lot more cuts coming. Maybe not a lot more cuts, but just a lot more negative stories. That's what it is, John. It's prudent. That's what it is. And like, I know this is not even slightly comparable. I always kind of find myself not comparing United People's TV, but right now I've got massive, massive ambitions of what I would love the channel to do and where I would love the channel to go and the types of content that I would love to do. But I'm having to scale those ambitions back simply because of how bad Manchester United are. Everything that I do here at United People's TV is a direct reflection of how well our football club is doing. I'm always a little bit proud of that, if I'm being totally honest. If United are doing crap, there's a direct downfall on United People's TV. If United are doing well, there is a direct upturn. But I've sort of had to scale back, and I'm now planning for in the next few months to be very different to what I thought they were going to be 3-6 months ago. And you're saying it's not prudent, it's just realistic. And yeah, that's what all of this is. It's realism. It's cuts left, right, and centre. It's stopping spending. It's redundancies. It's bringing the bottom line up. And at the same time, the football should be a lot better than it is, and that's down to Amram and those players. Callum's saying, look, so we should. It's about time we got a bit more creative rather than just throwing money at the next shiny thing. I'll tell you something that I would love to do, and fingers crossed I'll be able to do it, is in the build-up to the summer, we've always done these are sort of players that we should be looking at. But what I would love to be able to do this summer is kind of more scouting, like United People's TV scouting. Big up, Luca. You'll be a big part of this. And anybody who else, if there's any of you that are interested in that sort of thing, I would love for us to be able to produce videos and to create sort of little mini research projects looking at players that maybe we should be identifying as a football club. We spoke about Patrick Dorgu last summer, right, as a potential option. So, well, we spotted him. And I'm sure there are plenty of others. Like, and I keep saying this, like, when it comes to the striker department, I could go and do a video on Gyökeres. It's easy. I could go and do a video on Osimhen. I don't even know if I don't think United will be able to afford Gyökeres. I question whether they'll actually be able to afford Osimhen with the wages that he's going to be demanding. So what other strikers are there that maybe are just like the step down that people aren't really speaking about too much, but that have that potential if they're in the right environment to then maybe in a year or two time be where Osimhen and Gyökeres are. I think they're probably some of the most interesting football videos that we could do on the channel. But yeah, they're quite hard to do. That's what I'd like to do more of. Yeah, Liam Delap is an example, but again, Liam Delap is the he's in the Premier League. He's probably going to cost 40 million. Danny Welbeck, Jonathan David, Sam, you'll be doing the job of a sporting director for free. Now, but this is the thing. This is what the club is definitely doing behind the scenes themselves. But I think I would love to be able to do that with you guys. And sometimes you might get it right. Sometimes you might be able to spot a gem. And sometimes United, I'm not saying they're going to be linked because we've done a video, but you'll be able to actually sometimes predict what the club does do. I think it's an interesting thing because that's where United have got to get creative this summer. We can't just go out there and go, all right, let's sign Kender as the right wing back. We probably will sign Kender, but we can't just go out there for the top level. Sign Osimhen, sign Kender, sign Edison from Atalanta in midfield, and sign Cunha from Wolves. Great, that's it, done, sold. We haven't got the money for that. We have not got the money for that. Going to get Weghorst back. I'd take Weghorst back, come on. Charles saying we need to stop looking abroad. Hey, look, I think anybody who's followed the channel for long enough will know how much I've been saying, and I've been praising Dougie Freedman for how well he's been able to find gems in the Championship. There are so many gems in the Championship. The Championship quality compared to even a few years ago, it's just gone up and up. And it really is a breeding ground for some fantastic players. Anyway, that's the sort of thing I'd like to do probably in the next couple of months because the way this season is going, like fingers crossed we get through against Sociedad on Thursday, but if we don't get through against Sociedad, the season is effectively over. Kareem saying the pre-season is crucial, especially for the youth. Don't forget the fact that we've got a post-season before the pre-season. The players must be pissed about that. But again, just because of the finances. I can't believe... Imagine that. The season's going to end Aston Villa on the 25th of May, I think it is. And straight after that, I don't know whether it's the next day or not, but it's damn close to it. United are flying out to Malaysia for 2 games to make roughly about $10 million in revenue. So it will help the bottom line, but for the players, they must be like, are you kidding me? Because it gets a week. It's going to have an effect on morale, for sure. And these are the sort of the trade-offs that are going to have to happen in these next couple of years. Right. Don't know why I said that. Puppy power. Someone's saying about Samu from Porto. Oh, Samu from Porto is going to be hella pricey, man. Hella pricey. Last minute or two of the show. Please do fire in your questions. Anything you want, and I'll answer them. But yeah, the top line from today's show, it's a frustrating, but Chido is not going to be involved in the Europa League at any point this season. But I randomly let myself just have a little daydream earlier, and I was thinking, could you imagine that Chido's first goal in a United shirt is a winner against Arsenal in the Premier League? And I let myself think about that for 10 seconds. I enjoyed it. And then I came back to reality and thought, that's probably not going to happen. But if it did, oh boy, would I enjoy that. Sir Lauren saying, would you take De Gea back if he could come back in right now? No, I don't know. Don't go back to your ex. It's kind of a blanket rule, really. And everybody, even with the, as I said, my lunchtime video is going to be on Onana because I'm going to call myself out on the fact that I said he was a transformative signing. I'm going to stand by the research that I did, but just, you're not going to get a more confusing player than that. You're really not, man. Not for the player that we signed. And the age he was and the experience. There's so many confusing parts of it. Could you see a mass sell-off from the academy this summer? Unfortunately, and I hope that they close this rule, and I really, really do. But because an academy player counts as like pure profit, it's basically seen as like a double sale for any club. So they'll always look towards the academy for that. And United have shown with a few exits recently that they're happy to let a player go with a big percentage sell-on clause. I hope it's not a fire sale because our academy right now is just littered with talent, man. Really, really is. Can you find out how many staff each Premier League team has on their payroll? I believe, John, that Liverpool were the closest to United with around about, I think, just over 1,050. Arsenal were on about 700. They're a lot. What's the priority position in the summer, says Volpes? Probably right wing back. Striker just behind. It's kind of a toss-up between the two. But it's definitely one of those two, for me anyway. Will Garnacho leave this summer? I'm not predicting that Garnacho will leave. But I could easily see it happening. The fact that there has been another disciplinary situation after the first one, after City, I think will disappoint Amorim. Because like everybody makes mistakes, man. You didn't play well in training, fine, okay, come back in. And then just the reaction to do that was it wasn't necessary. And there will be interest in Garnacho. I could easily see him go. If the offer comes in at 60 million, then we will sell Garnacho and we'll have a sell-on clause as part of it as well. And again, if you then think hypothetically you get 60 mil for Garnacho, 25 mil for Sancho, 40 mil for Rashford, that's 125, plus 30 mil for Anthony. And then you've got Eriksen leaving and Casemiro leaving and Shaw leaving maybe and Lindelof leaving and Malacia leaving and Johnny Evans. It's not impossible for a genuine clear out to happen this summer. It's not at all. Right. Thank you all for tuning in. Apologies for lecturing you. That one's good. That one's stuck with me. That's a good one, that is. All right. Take it easy. I'll be here at lunchtime with the Onana video. Tomorrow morning, I'll be here live at 10 a.m. Whatever the news is, we'll talk about it. All right. Take it easy.